Hi guys, I am back. I've got something I'm trying today. I'm gonna make a couple more soap dispensers. I got these fun little mushrooms. They're little, like, tiny little mushroom things. I got a package of hedgehogs. I've got Let's Resin Azure Blue. These little things, these are actually from uh, fish tank display things, and I just cut some of those out because I'm going to try to incorporate those. And then I've got this bag of forest moss, and we're going to see what we come up with. So I also have already mixed up about 15 ounces of resin. I did run this through my Resiner's bubbleless air machine because I live in Michigan. It is getting cold. I like to do this with my window open, so it's, pretty cold out. So my resin was very thick and it had a lot of bubbles in it. So I went ahead and ran it through the machine for 9 minutes just to get any bubbles out. Anything else that's left in there, those will work themselves out. This resin is great for that. So we're gonna move all of this stuff out of our way for right now so that we can do the base. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a separate cup and we're going to split this in half. I'll do about half and half. And then I'm going to take my Let's Resin Azure Blue, I guess. Give it a good shake. Now, this one I'm going to do 4, 5, 6 drops in. I want it pretty dark. And then I'm going to take my popsicle stick and I'm going to stir that in really well. While I'm stirring this, I'd like to talk a little bit about how we do, I got a lot of questions about how you get started selling, how you market your items. Honestly, I am new to, so all I can do is tell you what I have learned. And basically, you have to kind of figure out what your market is, what you're looking for, what you're good at, and stick with it. Right now, for me, my soap dispensers in my area are selling like wildfire. I can't even keep up with the amount that I'm selling. And I think that part of that is right now in today's economy, people can't afford to purchase items that are not useful. I know I don't really have extra money to be able to buy things that aren't useful to me. So I I don't have any expendable money. And I think a lot of people, especially in the US, I don't know about other countries, but at least in the US, are feeling that. So they're not using money on things that they would like to have, like just knickknacks and, artsy things on their walls, things like that. They are using their money on things that they need. People need, they don't need soap dispensers, but they like to have the nicer ones. So I provide that. And I think that if you look in your area, see what other people are selling, see if there is a lot of people selling resin, and go from there. Okay, so I've got the darker blue in there, how I want it, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to go pour half into this one and half into that one. Now also, because you're making these upside down, you want this darker color for your lid. So I'm going to go ahead and pour my lid. I don't have enough to do the other lid, but that's okay. I can do that later. Okay, so with the lids, I pour that in, and then I take my popsicle stick and I go around. Otherwise, you get bubbles trapped down in there. So when you take your lid off, those bubbles affect the grooves on the tops of your soap dispensers. So these grooves that are in there, if you have a lot of bubbles in it, that's going to affect those. But yes, I do. I have a very high demand for soap dispensers and usable items like that. And that's year round. So around Christmas time, you get a lot more people looking at the oh, Christmas ornaments, decorations, that kind of thing, which is great because it increases your sales. But after Christmas and year round, you really want to have products that people want to purchase. And jewelry is another one that sells. I don't do much in jewelry. I'm not good at it, so I don't do it. But that's what I'm saying. Find what you're good at, what you like to do. Because if you are making things you don't even like yourself, they're not going to be as beautiful as the things that you really enjoy making. Craft shows are pretty big this time of year also. The big thing on craft shows is you may have to adjust your pricing. You might have to bring it down lower than you normally would sell it. Don't undercut yourself, but don't overcharge either, because then you're not going to sell anything. Before I started doing craft shows, I went to a few and kind of did my research to see what people were selling, and I wanted to make sure that what I was selling was different than what they were selling. Because you go to a craft show, and if there's a lot of the same items there, then it's just overkill. All right. So I just put 2 drops of the azure blue in here because I want this part to be lighter. I'm not letting this sit. I'm not letting it harden at all because I want these colors to mix together. I don't want it to be a huge difference in the 2 colors. So now I'm going to fill these up a little bit more. And then see, there is enough left to do this one, the lid for this one. So I'm going to add a little bit more blue to it just so that we can darken this up a little bit. All right, so there's the lid for this one, which is a little bit darker than the other one, but that's okay. All right, now that one is filled. We're gonna do the same thing, go around it with the popsicle stick. So I hope you guys don't mind me rambling kind of in this video. I've just had questions, and I thought, you know, while I'm making this video, I would go through some of that stuff with you guys. And if you ever have any questions or want to know anything, please, 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 please feel free to ask in the comments, and I try to respond to every comment. If I don't, if I can, if it's something that needs it, I will make a video on it too, just to explain myself a little bit more. But I know when I started, I had a lot of questions and was never exactly sure where to go to get my answers. YouTube videos answered a lot of my questions, but not all. So I decided to make this channel so that I could try to help people. I've had people say, how, you know, but you make all of these things and you share your secrets on how you do it. Yes, I do. But the fact of the matter is anybody that does resin, they understand that nothing ever comes out exactly the same twice. I have a whole line of soap dispensers back here that I am just finishing up, and they are all completely different from each other. And I will never be able to remake any of these exactly. So even though I am sharing my tips and my processes on how I do things, doesn't mean that somebody else can exactly make what I'm making. And if they do, great. There is enough room for both of us out there. So I really want to be able to show to people how we do things. What are the things that I have found that have made my life easier through this process? So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video, and we're going to wait a couple hours. I want this to thicken up before I do anything else. Otherwise, all these little things that I'm about to add to it are just going to sink, and I don't want that to happen. So we're going to wait a while. We're going to let that thicken up. Probably not 24 hours, but at least a few hours until it gets thicker. And I'll come back and I'll show you what I'm going to do next, and we'll talk some more. All right, we're back. It's been a few hours now, and I think that the resin is thick enough that I can do this without them sinking. It feels pretty thick, so I think we're good to go. We'll see. It might be too heavy, but we're gonna try this anyway because I have to get ready to go to my job. You know, that thing that actually pays the bills right now. All right, so I'm gonna set a little mushroom in. Kind of watching that for a second just to see if it does sink, because if it does, then we gotta wait longer. And then I got these little guys, which I think are like the cutest thing in the world. Okay, it's not sinking, so good sign. I don't think my tweezers are big enough for, well, maybe they'll actually hold them better. So you're gonna put it upside down because we are working from top to bottom. These are a little bit big, but that's okay. One of the reasons I wanted my resin to still be kind of soft was so that I could move these around and get them in there. I don't like it when there's a absolute line of where, because I'm going to be putting clear resin on top of this. And I don't like it when there's like this absolute line that you can totally see where, you know, they're different. So that's my reasoning on wanting it to be a little bit softer so that I can set that in there. And then I'm going to pour the next layer of resin in. That way it'll be kind of, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying, but like this one here has absolute lines. You can totally see where all of the different layers were poured. And I did that one on purpose so that you can see all the differences. Any of these, you can't really see, you know, that I did this in a couple different pours because I don't wait for it to completely dry before I do the next pour. I'll typically do the next pour within 4 to 5 hours. This one, the only absolute line is on the bottom. Even though this was done in 3 separate pours, you can't really see the line, and that's what I go for every time. So here, let me take that off so I can show you better. So on this one, the red flowers that I put in, that would be your first layer. So I did that layer first in it. And I let that sit for about, I don't know, probably about 3 to 4 hours. Then I put these frosted rocks in it to get, you know, just have a little bit more texture. So that was the second pour. And then the third pour was the bottom, which obviously you can see the absolute line there because it's a completely different color. So that is why I tend to do my pours within a few hours of each other, just so that it is sticky enough that they're not going to mix together, but hard enough that it's going to hold whatever I'm putting in it. I think that makes sense. Let me know in the comments if that didn't make sense, and I'll try to explain myself better. I'm really bad about explaining myself. So I'm just going to start laying these in here. I really think these mushrooms are so cute. Look at those. These are, I got these off of Amazon, same with the hedgehogs. I will link it in the comments if anybody wants to try something like this. So I'm going to turn this a little bit so that I can get a different angle. And that's, you know, part of it. When I'm working, I'm sitting down. I have an office chair that I sit in. And sometimes if I don't turn them, I miss areas. And then it doesn't look right because you got like a whole section that has like no color or no nothing. So also while I'm filming, it's a little bit harder on me. To be honest, I've struggled with getting the correct angles on things on my videos. I don't think people realize how difficult it is to make these videos sometimes, because for me anyway, my camera is usually in my way. I do things like forget to turn the light on, like I did. There we go. I'll knock into my tripod and then that makes it all go wonky. And honestly, literally, there are hours of filming to what we typically present to you. So if I make a table, it's going to be literally hours and hours of video that I have to edit down, voice over, and get it all correct. I typically always voice over my videos because life, you know, there's outside noises. There's just always all kinds of stuff. This video, I'm doing it different. I'm actually just trying to talk while I'm doing it, and we're gonna see how that comes out. I don't know. I'm not sure if, oops, if that's going to come out good or not. But anyway, as I was saying, there are literally hours and hours of video for each YouTube video that is posted. The amount of work that we put into these videos to produce something that you guys are going to want to watch and learn from is unreal. So if you do like a video, if you're watching a video and you like it, let us know. Give us that thumbs up, subscribe to our channels, because we put a lot of work into making these videos. Anybody that has made videos understands this. So, I mean, I'm not trying to, I hate it when people say subscribe, make sure you subscribe. But I'm just letting you know how much work. So if you are thinking about starting to make YouTube videos, TikTok videos, whatever, just know it is a lot of work. All right, so I'm going to take a look here. I got one mushroom over here that has decided to lay on its side, and I'm going to try to get that up. And I think I might put, yeah, I'm going to put one more hedgehog in because this side doesn't really have one. That's the other thing when you're making things like this. Look at it all the way around, because the thing is that when somebody buys one of these, something like this that has different sides to it, they don't want to have to pay attention constantly to what side it is. When you've got a soap dispenser on your counter, you don't have to constantly want to be turning it to make sure that the hedgehog is showing, or, whatever design it is. It just makes it a pain for them. So if you can get something on all four sides, they're not going to match, but at least if they all have something on it, then no matter what direction it is pointing, it's there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do this one kind of quickly, and then I'll show you the next step that I'm going to do. This moss is called Super Moss Forest Moss. I'm going to break pieces of this off, which this gets a little messy. just so you know, that's why I didn't bring it out until I had everything in here that I wanted. And this I'm just going to kind of lay on top of all of that. You really don't have to smush it down too much. When you pour your resin in, that's going to smush it down anyway. All right, so I'm going to continue putting this in here, and then we'll mix up some resin and pour that in. Okay. All right, I got all of that laid in there. Now, as you can see the mess that this makes. So if you have any other open ones, any other open projects, you might want to cover them to make sure you don't get this in there. Because like, even look at my gloves. I'm going to have to change my gloves out before I do much else, actually. And I'm just going to try to wipe some of this up and get this out of here and out of our way. I've mixed up 8 ounces of resin. I did not put this in my resinator or resiner bubbleless machine this time. 2 reasons. One, the sunlight has heated up my resin a little bit, so it's not as thick as it was first thing this morning. And the other reason is that these are going to cause bubbles anyway. So if there are some bubbles that don't get released, then that's okay. I'm just going to put 1 drop of this azure blue in here. I do this for a couple reasons. One, it'll match the rest of it and just give it, a nice little tint. 2, clear resin over time will yellow. I don't care what kind you use. Some take longer than others to yellow, that's for sure. I haven't had any issues with anything that I've made using the Unicone resin yellowing yet. But if it does sit in the sun or in a sunny area, anything like that, over time it will yellow. So if you put just a little bit of blue in it, that offsets that some. To always include a care card with every item that I sell about not leaving it in the sunlight. Don't use harsh abrasives, harsh chemicals, that kind of thing. But to be honest, I highly doubt everybody reads those. So I try to combat all of that from my side. All right, so you can see as I'm pouring this on here, that moss, it shrinks right down. Okay. Let that settle for a second. I'm going to pour this one. You can see, I don't know if you can see, but the moss is actually above the mold. And whoops. Yeah, I have zero depth perception, so that's always fun. I make messes, but as long as I clean my messes up, I don't think it's that big of a problem. All right. I'm going to just take my finger and make sure that that is all shoved down in the resin and that it's covering like I want it to, making sure that there aren't areas that are more bare than others, because I can always add more if I need to, but I want to make sure at this point that all of these areas are covered. This one needs some more. I might have put more moss in this one than the other one, but as I said, yes, I'm making 2 of these right now, but they are not going to be identical. Resin does whatever it wants to. Despite our best intentions, we can try to, stave off some of those things from happening. But honestly, anybody that works in resin knows it just does whatever it wants to most of the time. Okay, I'll put some more in this one now. And a little bit more in this one. Now the resin is not all the way to the top on these. That is actually purposefully done. I think I'm going to put some small stones or shell in the bottom of these. I typically will put some kind of stabilizer in the bottom, whether it's a shell or a stone, to make the bottom a little bit heavier. That way it doesn't tip over as easy for people. So, all right, I think those are pretty well done, well covered. Any little bits that are still sticking up after this resin hardens will just break off. Can't do it now, but because it's still wet, but once it's dry, those little pieces just break right off. All right, we're gonna let that sit and probably come back later tonight and put stones on it, because now I gotta go get ready for work. See you guys in a bit. Okay, I lied. Oh, sorry, hit the camera. I'm gonna go ahead, I got this crushed shell. This I got at Michael's. I'm gonna go ahead and lay this on here now, because I kind of want them to sink down within the moss. The more I got thinking about it, the more I thought that would look a little bit better. So I'm gonna go ahead and lay this on here now. And these will sink down a little bit in areas, which is actually what I'm going for. You can see these are already starting to sink down, which is really good. I'll probably top them off with just a little bit more resin just to make sure that they are all stuck down pretty good. Okay, it is time for the reveal. Let's get these out of the molds. I think they came out okay. Some of the mushrooms are a little bit on the side. I don't really like that. They kind of tipped a little bit. I think I've got an idea of how to fix that for the next time. Maybe use some UV resin to stick those down a little bit better. Overall, though, I kind of like how they came out. Here's the pictures of the end result. I hope you guys liked this video, learned a little bit. I know I did, and I loved chatting with you guys. We'll see you next time.